Hi guys, and welcome back to Hilltop Farm. Today I'm doing a video about canning. Now, and you'll guess by the title, the good, the bad and the ugly. This is basically outlining to you our feelings here at Hilltop Farm about canning, or more so the product that comes out of the can later. Now, as those of you that have watched any of my cooking videos know, I love cooking, and the greatest thing you can do for your palate and your health, and in presenting really good food, is, where possible, always use fresh ingredients, fresh produce, fresh meat, as in not out of the freezer, not out of cans, you know, straight either from the butcher or straight from your farmyard to the kitchen. But let's be realistic, we can't do that. Now, the point of canning to me, well, firstly, when we do menu plans here at Hilltop, we try and do them seasonally, so that where possible we're using as much of fruit and vegetables that are in season. One, from an expense point of view, if we have to actually buy them, we haven't grown them. And two, obviously, if we are growing them, it's the availability that's the issue. Now, sometimes if we have excess of something, we will can it or dry it because we have an excess. And other times, or like in the past, we have deliberately grown more with the purpose of canning. We've bought more with the purchase of canning. And it's all, look, it comes down to your personal taste. As I say, this is our view on it. If you have been used to, the best way to think about it is everything that you see before you hear, everything that is cannable, if it is something that you yourself like, in the form of being in a can or a jar from the supermarket shelf, if that's something you like, then you'll like it in the can form. Okay? Things like, you see here, we've got carrots, green beans and pumpkin. Okay? If you're used to having green beans from a tin can from the supermarket, then you'll love these, because that's what it tastes like. If you're used to having your carrots the same way, again, you'll love these. That's what they taste like. If you've only ever had green beans fresh or carrots fresh and you try these, there's a very good chance you're not going to like them. That's the bottom line. I'm not particularly fussed on things like this. We have them, or we did them initially without really realizing. We sort of thought, oh yes, we'll be able to have them in the off season, until we did that and we all decided that we don't actually like them. So we have shelves of this kind of thing that we only use in things like casseroles, stews, things like that, where they're just one of many ingredients and the flavour is covered in sauces and gravies and things like that. So they do get used, but they're not, we're not keen. Alright? It's wonderful for making pumpkin soup, because you put, it's supposed to be a mush and you put everything else in there. Possibly good for making pumpkin pie, but I've never made it, I've never had it, we don't have it here in Australia. So only countries that do have it will be able to give me a comment on that. but wonderful for things like that. If you want to roast this with your Sunday roast, forget it. It's not going to be the same. So this is where you have to think. It's not, let's say, it's not wasted, but we here at Hilltop Farm do not serve just that up. And obviously we have taken into account, when you put it in water, a lot of the flavour leaches out. So we do add salt, sometimes sugar. We actually put sugar in with our carrots, not salt. Whereas the beans we put salt in. And it helps maintain or keep a flavour. But you can't kid yourself, no matter how well you do it, that's going to taste like a fresh green bean. Our vegetables, we don't overcook them here. We like them to be bright green and crisp and basically slightly past the blanch stage. These are mushy, they're grey, and I think totally unappealing, which is why these go in stews and casseroles here. Okay, so that takes care of the vegetables. Alright, that's just some of the vegetables we have, just to give you an example. Right, so I'm putting those in the category of bad, right? In that form. You can do things with them, as I say. The next one that's bad, that can border on ugly, is meat. There's no doubt about it. Meat is ugly to look at. Okay? This is ground beef. Okay, that you can see at the top is the fat. That doesn't bother me, as you know. I don't mind fat in our food. It's supposed to be there. A certain amount of it is good for you. But this is cooked the way we do our mince or ground beef. We cook it, and then we fill the jar up and we can it. Okay, it changes the flavour. When you take this out, it's not foul. Don't get me wrong. It's not. It's edible, but it does not taste the same as normal ground beef. The flavour has changed. The texture has changed. I guess because of the high temperature and the length of time it's cooked for. It's almost mushy. It loses part of its texture. So even though to a certain extent when you use this you can use it in a bolognese sauce or a shepherd's pie or something like that, and you can mask the flavour with other things you put in with it, but you can't mask the texture. So that I do have issues with. This is beef. Okay, this is just pieces of beef cubed. Alright, now they were basically just sealed. That's all they were, just so they didn't bleed. Chuck them in there, canned. Okay, fantastic to put in a strong tasting curry or a robust sort of casserole. Okay, when I say a robust casserole, something where you put like a bottle of wine in to make your gravy base. Perfect. But if you're going with a light base, like a almost like an onion soup type base, then it doesn't work. You can taste something strange, I guess is the way to put it, about it. And it's because it changes in the canning process. Alright, so again, I'm putting that into the not great category. Okay, and the last one I'm going to deal with the meat is chicken. Okay, now again, this is cubed. Alright, and again, it's pre-cooked, but it's not cooked all the way through. It's just sort of sealed on the outside. Put it in there. We don't actually add any liquid, we just put it in there with any juices that came out of the cooking process in the pan. That's actually all the liquid you get out of the chicken. I've yet to find anything we can cook this with that where people don't notice the flavour. So I think chicken is less successful than the beef. Okay, I'm putting the chicken personally into the ugly category, right? Having said that, because we have a few jars of this still left, we're December 15th, they're nearly 2 years old, and they'll go well into 18, I'm sure. My mother quite likes it, so she will periodically take a jar home, and it does her quite a few meals, because this was originally done with the family in mind. Being on her own, she stretches this out quite a bit. So again, this is our opinion here. Everyone is different. As I say, my mother quite likes it, so it, you know, everyone's different. Okay, so those are the things that I'm personally putting in the bad and the ugly category. So basically vegetables and meat, and you're probably thinking, well, what else is there? I'm not saying we don't do these things, right? What I'm saying is I find it very limiting as to what I use them for later. The upside is we've done the process, we have the skill, we have the knowledge, and if there was some terrible scenario in the world where something horrible happened and for some reason we had to know, you know, we had to do this, we could do it. We have the skill set and we know how to do it. So that's most important. And as I say, most of these products we can and do use, we just have to hide it in other things. Now, moving on from that, when I said to you things bearing, you know, you think of it as you're at the supermarket, and is it in a tin can on the shelf or a jar on the shelf? Would I in fact buy it, eat it and enjoy it? One thing that fits into that category is tomatoes. Okay, tin tomatoes are lovely. Tomato products, whether it be a bolognese sauce or anything, or a tomato puree, anything like that, is very useful, very handy. So we always grow excess tomatoes, or if we see them on special at a farmer's market, we'll buy excess tomatoes, and we use those. We can them, use them all the time. Fantastic. And they taste exactly like you get out of a can or a jar. But there's a case in point. You eat a tomato, or you put slices of tomato on your sandwich or something like that, that's one thing. But it doesn't taste anything like the product you get out of a can, does it? So this is the same principle. Carrot tastes one way, you put it in a can, tastes something like a totally different animal. You know, it's very different. So one vegetable or fruit that we do a lot of is tomatoes. The other thing, which we don't have any left because we are on the verge of summer, is our fruits. Okay, we preserve fruit, whether it be apricot halves, peach segments, or nectarine segments, or what else is there? There's plums, cherries, all these marvelous things. We put them in jars. We make a light syrup. You can't put it in water, it just leaches all the flavour out and it's revolting. You have to make it either a light syrup or in fruit juice. Now fruit juice is just ridiculously expensive, and if you make it yourself, well, there goes all your fruit anyway, so I see no benefit in that. Everyone says, oh, but it's added sugar. You don't have to, you know, you're not making treacle here. You're making a light syrup. So we preserve all our fruits for that, and that is wonderful. You can just open it up and have it as is. You can drain off the syrup and then just have the fruit. You can put it through your kitchen processor or something like that and make it into a pie filling or something. There are all sorts of things you can do with that. So canning is excellent for that. So fruit for canning, definitely in the good category. Okay, going on from fruit is our jams. Okay, now here we have our apricot jam, our blackberry jam, and strawberry jam. Okay, at the moment I think these are all the jams that are left. Well, there's more jars, but these particular jams are the ones that are left here at Hilltop. The plum jam is always the most popular and always the first to go. It's our plum jam is a really tart flavour, and everyone loves it. Everyone loves it. So that's the first to go, and I think we've still got about half a jar in the pantry at the moment, but that's all. We're still using strawberry jam for 2015, and that's not because people don't like it. I went to the farmer's market and bought these boxes of strawberry jam, and it made so many jars. We're still working our way through it. So those that tell you that, oh, the lids only last a year, well, this is about to enter year 3 and it's still perfectly sealed, perfectly fine. Okay, blackberry jam, there's not that many jars of that one, but that's my personal favourite, and Helen, my wife's personal favourite, I think, is the apricot jam. So there's a few of those, I think, but mostly it's strawberry, I think, still. So jams, it's a given. They're absolutely fantastic, so definitely in the good. Now, moving along from jams, we then have things like sauces. Alright, all we've got left in the pantry at the moment is our applesauce, okay, which we stockpile for Christmas because my eldest daughter adores it. And we have to keep it away from her because she'll spoon it out of the jar if you let her. But she has it once a year with her ham at Christmas, and she's terrible. So anyway, your applesauce is perfectly fine in the canning process. This is what we've got left of our Asian plum sauce. So any sauces you make, and we don't have any other sauces at the moment, but if you made a barbecue sauce or a tomato sauce or any of these sorts of sauces, again, you would have them in a jar or a can on the supermarket shelf, perfectly alright. Again, they're perfectly alright in this form. Alright, so they are wonderful. I'll just pop those to one side. And we come across to, would you believe this is all we have? And there's only one jar of it left. This is our pear chutney. You can tell, can't you, that we're in spring. We're waiting for everything to start growing again. This is our pear chutney. This is the only jar we have left. And we don't have any other relishes. We don't have I mean, we've normally got beetroot, or I think Americans call it pickled beets. We love it, absolutely love it. We've normally got that on the shelf. We've normally got I think you call it, maybe, I think you just call it pickles. We call it gherkins, but they're like the small cucumbers that are in a vinegar based solution, all that sort of thing. Beautiful, perfectly alright in the canning process, doesn't change the taste, is wonderful. Alright, so they all pickled items are all in the good category. Stocks, we used to make batches of stock and pour it. We used to get plastic containers, and we make lots of stock. I mean, particularly chicken stock we go through an awful lot of. We also go through some beef stock and some game stock. I don't make fish stock very often, and when I do, I would just make it fresh, and I don't believe I ever use vegetable stock. When it is called for, I use a light chicken stock, which wouldn't be any good if we had vegetarians to dinner, but I probably wouldn't invite a vegetarian to dinner. I don't think they'd like what I served them. Anyway, so we used to put it in the freezer, and of course, once you've you know, you've got your freezer full of you know, if you've done a cull and you've gotten rid of a dozen or so roosters, and they fill the freezer, and if you decide to make room in your freezer to make stock with, well, that didn't do any good, because you just replaced the birds with the containers of stock, and so it was a real hassle. So we decided to start canning our stocks rather than freezing them. Much easier, much better idea. Strangely enough, makes no change to the flavour whatsoever, whereas the meats do. And that's why we didn't do it initially. We thought, oh, it's going to make it taste funny. Doesn't change the taste whatsoever. So stocks, yet another success story in canning. And last but not least, I'm just throwing this one in. As most of you know, those that follow the channel, we make our own pectin here at Hilltop. And I use these little, I think they're half-pint jars to make the pectin. And the beauty of doing this is it's fresh, you know exactly where it came from. It's not some powder that you don't know what's in it, what process it's been through, or anything like that. I know that this came out of the apples from my tree. I know what was sprayed on them, which of course was nothing. I know what was fed to the tree, which is only organic matter that comes from our rabbits, ducks, chickens. So I'm not concerned about this at all. But when I make it, it makes quite a bit. It makes you about, in reality, about 3 or 4 years worth of pectin. So again, I ignore the Ball Mason guidelines for their lids. I have no problem storing pectin in these jars for 3 to 4 years, none whatsoever. So that's another thing, a success story with canning. Now, you're probably getting bored to death by now, but so I'll wind this up, but just suffice to say that it basically comes down to individual tastes. But I believe that the main guideline is, if you like the flavour of something when it's in a tin can or a jar on a supermarket shelf, if you find that quite palatable, then you'll find the equivalent palatable in the home canning process. Alright? add what you don't find palatable with things like, with basic things like your vegetables and meats. You soon discover recipes and ways to disguise the taste. But I think I've outlined the things that we consider real success stuff here. And look, as time goes on, I've no doubt we'll find more things to add to that list. But at the moment, it is what it is. Okay, now I will just say, such suddenly occurred to me, in case anyone's wondering, listen. Did you hear that? There. If anyone's wondering what that noise is, we have some eggs starting to hatch, and in this yellow thing here, this is an old incubator that doesn't maintain its temperature, and we run this, and when our babies hatch, we put them in here to dry, and we literally have one chick hatch so far, and it's in here on its own, and it's very lonely, making a lot of noise. So yeah, if you're wondering what that noise has been the whole way through, I probably should have said that at the beginning. That's what it is. So it's a little bantam something or other, we don't know what, I can't remember, but anyway, there you go. So thank you so much for joining me for this video. I hope you found it informative, and I hope it helps you. But bottom line is, you will discover a lot of this for yourself. My recommendation is to start off small. We didn't do that. We should have. Start off just canning, you know, 2 or 3 jars of each thing and making your own mind up. When we first did it, I think we did about 40 cans of beans and something stupid like 60 or more even carrots. Crazy. We'll be eating them probably till the next millennium, but still, you learn from your mistakes, don't you? So anyway, that's my recommendation for you, to start off small. So if you like this video, give us a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber to our channel, then hit subscribe, and consider going to the link below to our Patreon account and have a read of it. You might decide you want to become a patron of our channel, which will be wonderful, but you don't have to. But by all means, go and have a look and have a read and see what you think. And until next time, thank you for joining us, and it's goodbye from Hilltop Farm. See ya!